You're listening to the Relevance Hour, the podcast where purpose-driven leadership and bold ideas bring more impact and relevance.
Log in, lights up, same chair, new spark. We don't wait for the mood, we choose how we start. Choose your attitude, flip the script today.
John, thank you for making the time.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming to America and hanging out.
No, it's such a pleasure, always. And it's if I can choose to go into America via Minneapolis, I will.
Well, good. Well, you're always welcome.
And we've been seeing each other for, I think, 2 decades now.
At least.
Which, makes me think, you're the founder, the creator of the fish philosophy world. Amazing world recognition. But can you take us back? Why did you, or how did you come to that philosophy? What happened?
Well, I still haven't figured out the verbiage of what I am yet. The creator, the founder, I think a discoverer is a good word for it, of saying, I had the eyes to see this opportunity of saying, I wanted to make a film about people doing their work with passion. So a little instigation of that was by the fact of, in a movie in the 1980s, there was a film called Flashdance. And there was a woman who wanted to be a dancer, but she was a welder during the day, but she was pursuing this dancing career. But the film scene that hit me was this traffic officer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, dancing to his job. I mean, he was in full winter garb, white gloves on, and dancing and directing traffic full-heartedly with his feet and his hands. And I remember that scene and saying, gosh, there's got to be people out in the world who do their work with that much passion.
I think I remember that scene.
Yeah, very fascinating. Just a sidebar is a couple years ago, we did a little expose on the original cop who was dancing to his job. Wasn't in Pittsburgh, I don't think, but his family, a relative of his, emailed us and said thank you for keeping his memory alive, because we did a little expose on him. Nice. Of saying, look at this traffic officer dancing to his job.
Amazing.
And that's nice full circle all these years later, 27 years later, that we went back to that original thought of saying, how do I find a place that people are doing their work with passion? And
whereby for the philosophy that you found or founded, right, or created, that is like 3 decades old?
27 years old.
27?
27.
So, and you told me once that you were actually wandering around Seattle. Can you take us back to that?
Right. So
what happened?
I was working on another film project with a poet named David White, and he talks about our wholeheartedness. And some interesting lines he says is that we crack the windows of our cars sometimes. We think it's to save the upholstery, but maybe it's just to save that little bit of ourselves that we've left in the car. That's a wonderful, interesting thought. Then he talks about how we spend more time at work than we do with our friends, our family, our relationships, our places of worship, or the great outdoors, and what a shame it is if our life energy isn't being utilized in this place that we spend so much of our time at. So I spent these 3 days in the woods with this poet talking about that, talking about spirituality, talking about wholeheartedness. It was a lovely time, but then Saturday morning I got up, he lived on an island just north of Seattle, so Friday night I moved down to Seattle. Saturday morning I got up, asked the front desk, where do I go see the sights and sounds of Seattle? And they said, oh, you've got to go to Pike Place Market. Nice. So I started at the north end and worked my way down, and lo and behold, I see all these wonderful street vendors and beautiful flower bouquets, but this noise is calling me, like the Pied Piper kind of, this yelling and screaming is, I'm caught in that sound. And I finally get up to the place where the sound was happening, and lo and behold, the crowd parted for me, and I went up and started looking at it, and it was a bunch of fishmongers working. and people were screaming and yelling because these fishmongers were hugging customers, high-fiving them, and also throwing fish and catching them one-handed. And so there was the antics going on, but then when you stood back and looked, it just wasn't the fun of throwing the fish, it was how they were interacting with people that really caught me.
So basically you saw in real life what you were talking about before.
Absolutely. I was talking about this wholeheartedness, and here was a group of guys being wholehearted.
They were doing it. They were being it.
They were living it, being it. And that's another interesting piece to this, was that I was caught up in the energy of that.
Right. Because that's next to fish, that's what they really sell, right?
Right. Yeah. I was saying to myself, man, I wish I had this much fun at work, this much energy, this much engagement in what I was doing, and my associates. I would love our team to be this way. So I was caught up in that energy. I got caught in it. And that's one of our sayings, catch the energy and release the potential. Is saying, catch what this is. Catch this fun, this energy, this connectedness to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And still today. And we talk about that in a moment, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Can you explain, okay, you founded it, created it, but those 4 pillars, how did you get to the pillars? What are the pillars?
So the 4 practices we've worked. When the film first came out, we called them steps, the 4 steps. But then they were principles, and then we analyzed what principles means. But then we came on into the word practices.
Better.
Because it really sums up this idea of these are things that you practice in your life, of how to engage in your life and how to build your relationships and how do you show up in the world. I love this one saying that we haven't worked very hard at of analyzing or saying to the world yet, but wake up to how you show up. Wake up to how you show up. Are you showing up engaged and happy and enthusiastic? It's not Pollyanna-ish. I mean, it's not that you have to be bright and shining all the time, but awareness of how you're showing up is a huge piece.
And maybe how do you want to be seen?
Right. And how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be seen? How are you showing up as a leader? How are you leading? Are you an example? COVID threw us for a loop, but by the fact of saying in the leadership role, are you being infectious? Are you infecting people the way you want to have it infected? Are you being the cause of good and caring and love? Are you sharing that with your associates? Are you being the big old speedboat that comes by and creates these waves and everybody stays out of your way?
I guess nobody wants to be the latter one, but we have enough of those. I think the 4 principles, as you call them, rightfully so. Right?
Practices,
sorry. Play, be there, choose your attitude, make their day. 27 years old, but still, I would say, so relevant today. How do you see that?
They're universal truths. Again, you asked how did they come about? Well, we shot roughly probably 36 hours, if not more, footage in the fish market with the guys on the shop floor with customers and interviews with them. And we distilled that. Now again, this is where I call it the discover. I'm the discoverer because the team helped create this. It was distilling 36 hours of film into 18 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of distilling. And it took us a year to do that because there was so much to go through and distill it down. And then we saw what was being said was this language that we created. We co-created as a team at Chart House the language of fish. It was taking and distilling what was being said on the shop floor and the interviews with the guys, but they weren't speaking the fish philosophy. They didn't come out and say, we're making people's day, we're being there, playing, make their day, and choose your attitude. They were saying those things, and living them on the shop floor, but they weren't
subconsciously.
The vernacular wasn't there saying this is the fish philosophy,
right.
Quote unquote, right?
Whereby what you say is so powerful, that they were living it is more important than they were saying it.
Right.
And I just am, let's say, baffled that after 27 years, I would say, and I'm curious how you see that the relevance maybe is bigger now than ever before on the workplace for those four practices.
Yeah, because I think the culture has changed in the world, and this whole idea of working from home, you can work wherever you want to work. We've lost this incredible piece of what we are as humans, is we need connection. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why it's so important now, and its time is now, is because we need this interaction, this relationship. We're human beings. We need to be together. We need that human connection. And we missed that during the COVID period. We were all isolated, and we're trying to keep that isolation, some of people, and now we're, corporations are forcing people to come back to work, right? And we call it return to people
instead
versus
of
return to office.
Yes.
It's return to people, return to your community. I have an interesting one. The new Pope, the first week of his new popedom, said that the workplace is the new place of community.
Wow.
It used to be the church. It used to be the home. It used to be the neighborhood. Now it's work.
So how would you see the main recommendation for leaders these days that say we have to go back to work, or people need to go back ideally 5 days a week in the office? And here you say return to people, but why? What is the message? What's the recommendation?
Well, it's because when you're working, if people have ever worked in a community where everything is jiving and there's trust and love and caring, that environment creates incredible innovation. Because when we're together, I get to feed off of your ideas and you feed off of my ideas, and there's just something about this human interaction that we're having even right now, face to face. We can have the face to face on Zoom and all these different methodologies, but there's just something, we can see each other's body language, we can see each other's emotions better when we're face to face, and that we need that bond, that human interaction.
So the computer work can be done at home, but the engagement needs to be, that's what you mean, returning to people, returning to engaging them in the community that you're building. Yeah,
absolutely.
I like that a lot. John, if you would have to say, what are, or let's say, journeys that you're super proud of, impactful interventions or achievements with your philosophy?
Oh, there's a lot of stories that come, but ones that hit me the most are education. When it's been brought into a school or a teacher in their classroom has brought it in, and just short little stories I can tell. A young boy, we interviewed him. He's in our little film called Fish for Schools, and he says, there was a little girl who was by herself on the playground, and I went and talked to her, and I made her day.
Amazing.
And it made me feel good inside. I mean, I went and made her day, but it made me feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible piece. We had a beautiful children's specialty hospital, Rankin Jordan Children's Specialty Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, who lived fish so beautifully. They had 15-foot banners when you came into their hospital. They had fish practices on their badges. And when you came in, and the families of the children who were in the hospital, what does this mean? Be there, play, make their day. They would explain that to them and say, this is the way we're going to treat you and your child. We're going to be there for you. We're going to make their day.
Whereby on that, was it in the book or in the film, I think, where the new CEO actually took all the banners down, and the culture became even stronger because people believed in it so much that they didn't need the buttons and the banners to live it, which I think proves the point that the culture was really solid.
Right. And that's an amazing when the culture, that was Blue Care actually in
Blue Care?
Australia.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Blue Care in Australia.
Okay.
It was a nursing home and home hospice company. They got to the 5-year mark and they didn't have the banners anymore, but the culture had changed where they were living that. They were being it in such a way that they didn't need the banners anymore.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
If you look at 2025, is there, because some skeptical people might say, hey, a 27-year-old philosophy, cannot be relevant anymore. We both know it is more relevant than ever. But what would be a case from this year that you say it's proof that we're still super relevant?
it's proof, absolutely. We have a gentleman who is an incredible fish philosopher. His name is Doug Schnell. He's been a leader. He learned fish, interestingly, at Starbucks headquarters. He worked for Schultz during his time there. But then when Schultz left, he said the whole management dissipated. And so he went and worked at another coffee roasting company. But then he's since gone on and worked at other manufacturing plants as the leader on the floor. And he's gone on to 2 or 3 different areas where he's brought his fish leadership in, and he talks about the fact that when he comes in with fish, everybody's skeptical and going, oh, this fish thing, what is this? This is weird, and you painted the door rims yellow or whatever, and instead of the gray or the blue that's in most corporate headquarters. But it wasn't only the fact that he painted it colors. What he did was he asked the shop floor people, what do they need?
Right.
What do they need to make their job better? What do they need if they need a cart to move parts easier? What do they need?
He made their day.
He made their day, and he listened to them. And in some of the plants that he's gone into, he literally said in a 7-month period, they went from a 75% turnover rate to 18%.
Wow.
Just because he's caring and listening to people.
And what I think is beautiful about the philosophy, it's universal. I think all sectors, you mentioned cure, you mentioned schools, we're talking now to a huge food company, and even Heston's. I saw that you have a book about Heston's. Right. Can you explain that? That's also like super contemporary case, right?
Right. Well, Heston's is a high-end mattress company.
You said I.
It's kings and queens sleep on Heston's and movie stars. And so Heston's brought fish in and changed the dynamic of the shop floor again, understanding that people were in charge of their own work, but when they brought our philosophy in and let people still have the choice of how they showed up in work, but they built this together in their manufacturing plant of saying, how do we want to treat each other? We treat each other with love and respect. And we're talking very expensive mattresses. They're handmade. So these people are artisans. The people sewing the mattresses and splitting out the fabric and doing all sorts of beautiful things in a handcrafted way. They brought this artistic talent to the table, but they brought it in such a way of saying, we're artisans, but we're participating. We're fully wholehearted in what we're doing. So fish gave them the ability to have these conversations about what does our work mean to us? How
do you know
build
what
this?
it brought to them?
It brought a camaraderie. It brought a language. Again, this is the interesting thing. Fish brings a common language. One of our first big sales that we had of the VHS tape when it first came out was to Southwest Airlines.
Yes.
And so I got the second command's phone number, and Colleen Barrett, and I called her and said, hey, thank you for the order. Really appreciate that. But you're Southwest Airlines. Why? And she said, John, it gave us a common language. I can call from Love Field here in Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas. I can call from here and call any other airport that we're in and say, are you making people's day? Are you being there for him? Are you playing?
Amazing.
And that gave them a common language throughout the whole organization. That's the beauty. When you change the language, especially today, in the language of work words, drudgery, deadlines, timelines, time frame, got to get things done, right? Versus saying, no, let's celebrate work, making this a positive experience with work.
Amazing. You prove it's universal. It's translated in, I think, more than
26 languages.
26 languages, which is unbelievable. Millions and millions of viewers of the videos. Right. After 27 years, still super relevant, all sectors, and even high in terms of luxury. So, amazing job. Thank you for sharing. And,
Thank you.
I appreciate our friendship and our partnership.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was the Relevance Hour. Don't forget to follow, rate, and share, and keep leading with relevance. See you next time.